But you know what else we do? We have guests! Yes!
I wasn't ready. Oh man, I wasn't ready. I was busy looking up salubrious.
I was busy looking up salubrious.
Look at that.
Your skin looks very salubrious.
Well, I am feeling salubrious because I'm in the presence of someone who was so salubrious.
Oh, stop.
Look at that. Using it twice. For the first time in my life, ever, and twice.
That's how you commit it to memory, though. That's how you commit it to memory. We have Dr. Connie WUN of AAPI Women. Is it WUN or WUN?
It's WUN.
It's WUN. Okay. Of AAPI Women Lead here today. Now, I have made it abundantly clear to these people on this show that yes, my shows are always going to be through a Black lens, but there's always going to have a global perspective. And so it is imperative that we involve everybody. Well, who has common sense? And you are definitely, that's you, girl. That's you. So I want to let people know, first of all, who don't know about AAPI Women Lead. Can you please put them on to what y'all do, the work that y'all do, and then also tell them about what you are doing next, because I'm on the newsletter and I was like, oh, they doing things that people need to know about.
Thank you so much.
No doubt.
Thank you. So thanks for having me on your amazing salubrious show.
Thank you. I'm trying, man. I'm trying.
You don't even need to try. The rest of the world needs to catch up. Here we are, right? Catching up. So thank you. And then to tell you all a little bit about AAPI Women Lead, we're an organization that works to end gender violence against Asian, Native Hawaiian, Pacific Islander, women, girls, non-binary communities in solidarity with Black, Indigenous, and other communities of color. And we're one of the only organizations that work to end violence through a holistic approach. And what I mean by holistic approach is we host and hold storytelling, research, data analysis, all from the community's perspective. It's community-centered, it's survivor-driven, right? So all of our research and all of our stories are from our survivors, through our survivors' lens. And that helps to reclaim and also amplify the power of survivors, right? And as our survivors tell their stories for the whole world, because most people don't know anything around ANHPI communities, right? We also want to make sure that they're taken care of. So we fund our researchers, our storytellers, right? Livable wages. And then we also provide healing wellness workshops throughout the year. So every year we give about 30-something trainings around acupuncture, acupressure, community defense, Tai Chi, intuitive healing. So we reclaim our healing and wellness practices. And then we also host a lot of mutual aid projects. We partner with a lot of organizations across the US and its territories for the purposes of, again, ending violence and in solidarity with our communities. And just like last week, we worked with Fabletics. Fabletics donated about 1,500 articles of clothing and shoes for children. So we went here in the Bay Area where we're headquartered. We went to 6 different cities and distributed all these clothes to different organizations, actually people on the street. We were like, do you need clothes? You know, just to make sure. Exactly. So that's the work that AAPI Women Lead does. And again, we do this work largely because people don't know what's going on with us. They actually don't think that we're survivors of any sort. But then I also want to say, how do you
speak to that? Because I really feel like that's a real thing that a lot of people don't know or don't care. But I think there's been a real silencing of Asian women as survivors. It's almost as if this idea that Asian women are, we always talk about this idea that Asian women are docile, but then you see things like the comfort women in Japan. You know, you learn about, think about, we were talking about on my podcast, which hasn't come out yet, but about Saigon, you know, and during the Vietnam War, like how much violence was taking place there. So can you just speak to more about also like the sex trafficking, the way that this is uniquely, there's a unique experience that's happening in Asia around this, which is what calls for the necessity for AAPI Women Lead.
So I would say that it's a part of our history, both over, in our families' homelands here and here in the United States. So just to be clear, for Asian women here in the United States, it's up to about 60% of our women, girls have experienced some form of gender violence. And then when you talk about our Pacific Islander women and girls and non-binary communities, which is distinctly different from Asians, our Pacific Islanders also have a high rate, up to 60 to 70% of experiences with gender violence. That's here in the United States and in the territories, right? But you also don't account for how we experienced the violence through U.S. war, U.S. imperialism, right? So you were talking about comfort women. I can talk about, what happened during the Vietnam War and how many of our women were assaulted, killed, right? Comfort women in South Korea, thank you. And across Cambodia, Laos, right? So we're being we are being violated and experience violence in our homelands through U.S. imperialism and patriarchy, right? And then we come here because we're not indigenous to this land, and I, honor that we are, guests here in this land, and we experience gender violence here. And for some strange reason, here in someone else's, I was going to call it your country, but in your country,
it ain't mine.
You know what I mean? It's like people assume that people who look like me and Pacific Islanders are unscathed and don't experience any form of violence. And a part of me wants to be like, how'd you think we got here?
That part.
Why would we want to just be here? And then, you know what I'm saying? Like, and enter a war against Black people, a war against Indigenous people. We already went through war.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And so I think what needs to be highlighted and what AAPI Women Lead does is highlight the violence that we've experienced. And we don't do it in a way where it's like, us against anybody. We're saying actually it's in relationship to Black women, Black trans peoples. It's in relationship to Indigenous women, Indigenous peoples, right? Actually, the U.S. has a history of assaulting all of our populations across the globe. So we're entering that violence chat and saying, yo,
violence chat.
They do this to us too. And it's a reminder to our communities, they've done it to you too, and they continue to do it also. So we have to figure out a way to be in conversation with each other and also to strategize on how we can work in solidarity and in community with each other across these different geographic, racial, and ethnic assault lines.
Can you tell us about the project that you guys are working on that you just got into a new phase of the real lab? Was it the real?
Oh, I like the real lab. we called it the Institute, but don't worry.
The Real Institute is fly.
Not as. It's not. So we may need to credit you for a rebrand. Hold on. The real lab. I love it. So I what we are working on is the real lab / institute, which is an acronym for Research, Education for Advocacy and Liberation.
Research, education for advocacy and liberation. And liberation. Ooh, we love that.
Thank you. Thank you so much. So we are fundraising $1 million a year up to 2030 to launch the only research and education storytelling lab that works to end violence against that works to end violence against our communities. And in this sense, we at the Real Institute, one of the things that we do is partner with community organizations across the US and its territories. In the past 2 years, we partnered with 6 different organizations in Wisconsin, American Samoa, Hawaii, Massachusetts, California, right? And all of these researchers or storytellers were trained by our academic researchers, our community experts, to learn how to storytell, to learn how to collect data, to analyze data, right? And it became the first study of its kind that is community-driven and survivor-centered to tell the accurate stories about what our communities are experiencing. So we had Hmong women, Samoan women, we had Native Hawaiian women, right? All of these folks were saying, actually, the climate crisis is gender violence. They were saying colonization is gender violence, right? They were saying all of these things lead to gender violence in our communities. So the Real Institute wants to create, and if people help to fund us, we're going to create more cohorts of this kind so that we can reach the South, so that we can reach Guam, so that we can reach, other Pacific Islander territories, so that we can reach, the Pacific Northwest. So the Real Institute helps us to host these cohorts of storytellers that are from the community, most of whom have not had any experience doing traditional research, right? So that's what we do. The Real Institute also collects first-person surveys, narratives. We just got some data and a story around Korean adoptees.
Yeah.
And the violence that they have experienced, right? So that's stories that we want to promote and share as a part of the educational trainings. And then, of course, we want to be able to host trainings, not just do the research, but host trainings around our histories and around the data that we've collected, right? So that everybody knows what's really going on, especially with this new administration. They're not going to care. So we're taking a grassroots approach to everybody invest in us, invest in our stories so that we can tell the truth about what this country has done to us.
This is going to be, it's not like rhetorical, but it's just I feel like we always have to just repeat this. Why is it so important that our stories get told?
So there's a couple of thoughts that I have, and I'm going to keep it real honest with you, right? Oh, I'm sorry. So one of the reasons I think this is important is that AAPI Women Lead just came on the heels of, did you disappear? Because I'm like, is it just me on here right
now? It's just you right now. You was locking in, and so I said, let me give it to her.
Well, there's a couple of things. One is that AAPI Women Lead, as an example of what other women of color, Black, Indigenous communities of color experience. We just came on the heels of some death threats. And since our inception, we've experienced sexual assault threats in my DMs, hate mail, and then postal mail, right? And if we don't tell our stories, we're going to become continuous victims and survivors of violence without anyone being able to resource us or no one, showing up to resource us. In fact, I think because people don't know our stories, we become more vulnerable to violence. That's number one. Number two is that I think it's very important for us to tell our stories so that we can identify the commonalities, and then we can also identify ways we can be accountable to each other, right? So the first reason, I'll say it again, the reason why we need to tell our stories is so that we are not alone, alienated, and made vulnerable to violence, right? Because I'm tired of the death threats. I'm tired of the sexual harassment. I'm tired of people sliding into our DMs, emailing me, right? And even showing up at this show, perhaps, threatening us, right? After this. I'm tired of us being alone in that. And so we need to tell our stories so that people know we're not alone. And then the second thing is that I think we need to be resourced in our stories. And then I want us to be able to tell our stories so that we actually are able to work together to identify the commonalities and then to also identify ways we can be accountable to each other. And the third reason we need to tell the stories, which is related to the first reason, is because we need to tell the truth. And we need the truth to be heard. Our facts and our stories have to be told so that those who are, the powers that be, including patriarchy, racism, anti-Blackness, white supremacy, xenophobia, misogyny, all these structures are exposed for who and what they are, and that people stop buying into these structures. As long as we can tell our stories and affirm and be powerful in our stories, it's a part of the takedown. It's a part of the takedown because we're not going to be invisible. We're not hiding ourselves. And we're going to tell you who are the perpetrators that we're here and we're not cowering and we're fighting back. And a whole new world is coming based on our stories. So I think those are the few reasons.
Let me just think about if I have something, and then delivering an entire monologue, a soliloquy of concise necessity. And that to me is what you just named that's like a copy and paste for all of us, right? That's why this human experience, when you see the effort to silence people, you understand that there must be something very powerful here in our stories if they're making it so a part of their. And when I say they, at this point I decided that there's like humans and then there's just like alien forces that are, because I don't understand. I'm like, y'all are so dedicated to hurting people that you must not be people. That's really what I've decided. So I'm very close to being part of the lizard people community, because I'm just like, who are y'all?
Can I want to say one other thing just real quickly? And I think this is important, which is that, and I'll say this to your audience, right? Because I know that your focus is on Black liberation. And I think that's, yes, absolutely.
My focus is on liberation.
Okay, that's fine. I'm saying I'm here for that.
That's my experience.
No. And I'm okay with that. I'm saying as a Vietnamese woman, I'm also here for Black liberation.
We should be here for everybody liberation.
Right. And the reason why I'm saying that is because I also recognize the ways that people don't understand that not only are our struggles, connected, but that we are responsible for each other. Right. That was my point. My point is that we are responsible for each other. So I'm glad that you are here for my liberation, for Palestinian liberation, for all oppressed peoples. But I'm saying that I'm also here for your liberation, Black liberation, women's liberation, queer people's liberation, trans liberation, right? And that's the commitment we actually have to each other if we want to survive this place, which also means we don't get to weaponize things, right? I'm watching Asian people do things and I'm like, yo, that's racist, folks. You know what I mean? And you don't get to do that. You can't do that. You have an obligation as well to Black people, Indigenous people, as much as I say I have an obligation, right? So I say this to you on your show because I know how responsible you are. I also know how much what you've been going through. I know your commitments. I see you in your bravery. I see you in your courage, right? And I want to say that I honor you and I respect you so much for this.
Thank you.
It is not easy, no. And everybody needs to be able to show up in the ways that you have, in ways that I believe that I am committed to doing. And anybody who weaponizes our struggles against each other can kick rocks.
That's it. Where can people find AAPI Women Lead, and people wanted to, you can follow your C1 on Instagram, right?
Yes, ma'am. SEEWUN.
Yes, ma'am. You're going to make me put on my glasses.
I did mine.
I feel like.
Yes.
Yes, ma'am. So you can follow Dr. Connie on IG at C1. And where can they get more information about the Real Institute, about AAPI Women Lead, etc.?
So they can also go to our IG at AAPI Women Lead and then join our newsletter. They can also go to our website, which is aapiwl.org. But only go to that site if you're there to help one another, though. Sorry, I'm just saying, because we've gotten so much hate mail.
What is the hate mail? What are they hating? I don't even understand what they hate. What are they hating?
It's misogyny, right? They're misogynist. There's death threats. There's sexual harassment threats. There's sexual violence
what are
threats.
they mad at y'all for doing?
Oh.
Because this is the thing to me at this point. I'm like, how do you have the time to come bother us for talking about our experiences? Because I know you got some people coming at you. Like, where's the time?
Yeah.
They're mad that you're talking about the ways in which America and the imperialist praxis has harmed you. Like, that's what they're mad about?
No, there's a couple things. Well, can I do a quick thing on AAPI women, WENLEAD?
Oh, yes. Sorry.
No apologies. They're mad that we're actually telling our stories around gender violence. That's one. The other one that's been really hard, they've been mad that our work in solidarity with Black communities and Indigenous communities. So white supremacists have come for us. Conservative Asian men have come for us. Black male reactionaries have come for us.
Reactionaries? What's a reactionaries?
Is that the same as salubrious? No, it's not.
Because reactionaries make me feel like I need to put this on.
No, I wouldn't even do that.
Not the taps?
No, I wouldn't even do that. And I would be humble enough to even not even, I'm like, that's not a conversation. But what I would say is that the folks who come for us will say things like, will not see the ways that we're trying to both be accountable, right? And be in relationship with Black people. Because we've always been, right? And so I say the reactionaries refuse that existence, right? That's number one. And then number two, they want to weaponize racism in ways where they're just like, they come for us in a way where they, you know, some people will say your community is anti-Black and so you deserve to get raped.
I don't know. I actually, the use of rape casually was something that I first started seeing in terms of language with Zios. Like, I've had people tell me that before, but just like, it's become now like a thing that I think folks are just really casual about. And you know, we look in other nations, we look in the Congo, we look in Sudan, and we're hearing stories about rape being used as a weapon of war.
Yes.
Rape being used as an act of violence. And so we know that, like, when people say things like this, it's not casual. It's not like, oh, you know, I hope you get slapped in the face. Like, no, this is something that you are very clearly asserting as violence, and violence in the same way as taking your life. If not worse. I think I think they actually mean it in a worse way. Like, wanting someone to be raped is worse than wanting someone to die.
Well, I'd have to say we've gotten both, right? So right. I hate that you said same, right? So that's why I'm saying it's reactionary, because you're not here for liberation. You're here for yourself. You're here to get your knocks off. You're not here to free anybody. You know what I mean? You're here to use what is such an important movement and politic and weaponize it for your own gratification. Just say that. Say that. Say that it's about you and your twisted ways and your pathologies, right? Say it's for yourself. Don't say it's on behalf of any liberation. And that's why I say it's reactionary, because you're not doing it for liberation.
No.
You know? And to say that you're threatening rape, death, violence against people who are already vulnerable, you're a punk. Just own that you're a punk. And you're coming after people who don't have the abilities to structurally fight back. Instead of like thinking through perhaps like where this rage is coming from, how to hold people accountable, you want to further the violence? Nah, dude. You might as well be the man, and not even the man. You might as well just be a white man. Be friends with Donald Trump. Just say that. Just say, me and Donald, we want to kick it. Me and him are besties. Don't front like you're doing anything that's liberatory. And clearly I'm pissed because I'm like...
Well, let me tell you, the comedian in me has to point out that you have Dr. Connie voice and you have the Bay voice. And Dr. Connie will speak to us and say, so I want us to discuss the ways in which we are asserting ourselves and our voices. I want us to point out the necessity for us to really illuminate our experiences. And then the Bay Area, Connie WUN is like, yo, for real? Like, for real? Just go hang with your mans. Like, why are we even doing this? You're wasting everybody's time. Like, good to see you. Good to see you. This is, I'm not even playing, y'all, you're playing in our faces, and I don't like it. I don't like it. And I love that. I love that duality. I'll rob a bank with you any day.
Oh my God, I love that. That's like the best compliment.
Any day.
And I'm humbled. I am very humbled for you to give that compliment, because I know you wouldn't do that with everybody.
That is correct. That is correct. Dr. Connie, thank you so much for joining us. The people here feel so enriched and informed, and I really think that it's really important that people like you continue to be platformed, because also, you know, I don't think people really understand that there are folks like yourself who are standing in the gap, who are saying we have to be responsible. It's just, it's not, nothing is a plain picture, y'all. So shout out to Dr. Connie WUN. You see right here, AAPI Women Lead, as well as AAPIWL.org. And look out for our Small Doses episode coming soon. Mwah.
Thank you so much. Thank you.